Well, you hear that familiar theme song, and of course that issues in Michael Snyder is calling us from the left coast of the United States of America. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Alex, and hello, everybody else. Greetings from Los Angeles, California, where the weather is a little on the gray side, but spirits are light. Unfortunately, the movies are hit and miss this weekend, so batten down the hatches, let's get down to it. And we'll kick it off with Tomb Raider. I'm not a gamer, so like Lara Croft of Tomb Raider video game fame was never a significant cultural touchstone for me. And as for the 2001 film Lara Croft Tomb Raider, also known as simply Tomb Raider, and its 2003 sequel, both starring Angelina Jolie as, I guess, the Indiana Jane character, I saw them. I did. I thought the first one was meh, and the second one was even more mediocre. So maybe I'm not the target audience for the new movie reboot of the Tomb Raider property. But we've got it here, and at least the producers had the good sense to cast an actress I admire, Oscar nominee Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft, and Dominic West of The Affair and The Hour and The Wire as Lara's wealthy adventurer dad, and Walton Goggins as the villain, etc. And they tried to take a little time and give Lara a genuine origin backstory, but it all seems pretty jerry-built. And the movie comes off as an action by the numbers Raiders of the Lost Ark ripoff or update. And even though it has its moments, and admittedly, some of the sequences are a lot of fun, there's some real, that whole thing where an explosion happens and there's all this fire and the people are like, run, and they're running and they're one step in front of the fire. There's a lot of that stuff. And there are, again, some cool moments, and it's hard to argue with Alicia Vikander, who's very talented and charismatic, but she seems a little kind of slim. I don't know. There are just moments in the film and the mystical backstory involving a Japanese empress who's entombed on an island and has vile world-destroying powers. It seems all pretty knee-jerk. The director, somebody I never heard of, Roar Uthaug, and the writers of no great note in my book. I give it a pass, although, if you need something to see for a bargain matinee, go see Black Panther again. That's the answer. Okay.
I'll tell you, I have been a fan over the years and have played every one of the Tomb Raider games. Okay.
Oh, good.
And I've got to tell you, when they made the movies, I said, this is all wrong. When are they going to learn, don't make movies out of video games?
Yeah, you wish they would learn.
Because tell me a video game that worked as a movie.
Hey, Duncan Jones, who had a promising career after Moon, made that Warcraft film, and basically, he's been trying to struggle his way back from it. And as far as we're concerned, both of us, Mute was not the way back for this guy.
And why they went back to Tomb Raider after two failures, basically, I have no idea. I'm kind of wanting to see this, but every time I see scenes from it, it's like they're trying to recreate the video game, and I don't think that's the answer here. It is a great idea for a character.
And they try to flesh out her backstory, and there are moments, and Kristen Scott Thomas is in here as her father's right-hand woman, and they have good performers, and they do what they have to do, but the dialogue is hackneyed. And
then they probably got all the kind of touchstones of the video game, of climbing up walls and jumping across caverns and things like that, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
And I think the idea is don't try to recreate the game. Try and take this character and make her into Indiana Jones.
Well, that was the intent. They just still haven't been able to do it. And it's funny you said that they mimic the game, because even though I'm not a gamer, when she's climbing up the side of a wall, I'm literally reaching for a toggle control to try to force quit.
That's not to say that these movies today don't try to be like the video games, because when I watched Rogue One, I felt I was watching a video game.
Well, that's another problem.
With all the jumping and the having to get to here and then over there and then onto that, and give me a movie Don't give me a video game.
Here you go. Here's a movie about humanity in a very decent and positive fashion. Love, Simon is both a coming of age and coming out film. It's a contemporary dramedy that features as Simon, Nick Robinson, as his parents, Josh Duhamel and Jennifer Garner, and it concerns a suburban teenager who keeps the fact that he's gay from his family, his friends, and all of his classmates until it comes out and he has to confront the fallout. I mean, this could have been excruciating and heavy-handed, and it's not. Robinson is immensely likable as Simon, and without the sort of falseness that could undermine the movie, which is sweet and not at all saccharine. I mean, you root for him as much as his parents and sister and friends do, despite the secret that he's kept. I mean, Duhamel and Garner as mom and dad are kind of flustered but loving. Tony Hale from Veep is kind of not just comic relief, because there are comedic moments throughout. He's a fussy school vice principal, and he's funny. You also get, believe it or not, from The Flash, the actor Keenan Lonsdale, who plays Kid Flash. He's in here, and you can see, oh my God, he can act, because it doesn't seem always like he can act. And speaking of The Flash, this thing is directed by the TV superhero guru producer Greg Berlanti of the CW's teen skewing Riverdale, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow. So he knows his audience.
Basically, every show that's on the CW, basically.
Essentially, they owe everything to Greg Berlanti, and it turns out that he's a pretty good director when it comes to movies, at least movies like this. And the script, which is based on a well-received novel by an author named Becky Albertalli, is even-handed and pretty believable considering the changing mores in the world today. I mean, if it's eventually a little on the wish fulfillment side for gay kids, hey, no harm. It's done well. It's plausible, and you actually care about Simon, and that's not a bad thing. That's kind of a good thing. So for the type of film it is, I do recommend Love, Simon. Moving on to something a little more, shall we say, dark and actually more disappointing, I wish that 7 Days in Entebbe had been a more exciting movie. I mean, the actual historical events that make up its plot were thrilling and shocking. And it's odd that a movie that recounts the 1976 hijacking of an Air France flight, which is en route from Tel Aviv to Paris by I guess, Baader-Meinhof, German terrorists who had aligned themselves with the Palestinian cause. This is such a slog. I mean, no complaints really about the cast. The two non-Palestinians who are kind of masterminding it, or at least executing the plot, are played by Daniel Brühl, the terrific German actor, and Rosamund Pike, the British actress. And Eddie Marsan is Shimon Peres, the Israeli politician. Lior Ashkenazi, who I've seen in a bunch of films, terrific Israeli actor, is Yitzhak Rabin. They didn't stint there. And the idea of showing many sides to the crime, from the inner workings of the Israeli government to the Ugandans, including Idi Amin, who gives shelter to the terrorists, I guess the inner workings of the actual relationship between the Brühl character and the Rosamund Pike character. That's all good, but it's such a slog, and that's not what you want. Directed by Jose Padilla, written by Gregory Burke. I've had high hopes for this, and when it was over, I felt like I had been trapped on a plane for 7 days. Okay, a much better film. In fact, the equal in its own way to Love, Simon, Journey's End. Now, imagine a drama set in the trenches of World War I as kind of a grubby, muddy, frightened group of British soldiers are ordered to hold the line against an impending German assault. And among the officers is an even-keeled, pragmatic ex-teacher, in this case, played by a wonderful actor, a guy who I always enjoy watching, Paul Bettany. And how about a good-natured working-class guy, also terrifically portrayed by a favorite actor, Stephen Graham, who was Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire, among other roles. And then you've got the coward contemplating desertion, the broken captain trying to ward off PTSD with whiskey, and then you toss in the eager novice officer who asked to be assigned to the company because his sister had been dating the shell-shocked captain back home. That's played by the young actor Asa Butterfield. Now, the cast is wonderful, and believe it or not, the script is based on a 90-year-old play by a guy named R.C. Sheriff. And Journey's End, despite that pedigree, doesn't seem dated other than its period setting. In fact, it's all too relevant in a modern world where warfare is even more treacherous than it was back then. Wonderfully directed by Saul Dibb, adapted by Simon Reed, terrific cast. It's a heartbreaker. Journey's End, if you can take the subject matter, is absolutely worth your time and incredibly well done. Okay, we'll wrap things up with Flower, which is a pretty dark and kind of unconventional mix of teen comedy and coming-of-age movie. Just quickly, Zoe Deutsch, who I loved in Everybody Wants Some and most other films that she's done, plays this kid who lives with her single mom, and there's a new boyfriend, and the mom is played by Katherine Hahn. The new boyfriend is Tim Heidecker of Comedy Central fame. They live in the Valley in L.A., and he has the two. It's kind of a blended family. So you've got Erica, played by Zoe Deutsch, who has to now deal with Bob's son. And Bob's son has some serious problems, drug issues, and he's a bit of a chub. And everyone in her group, in the teenage girls group, becomes obsessed with the high school teacher played by Adam Scott, and they try to see what his deal is, and that kind of sends the plot spiraling out of control. It's actually co-written by the guy who wrote Ingrid Goes West, Matt Spicer, a movie I liked, and I think he's pretty talented. And Deutsch is wonderful. It's just great seeing her on screen. She's a legacy kid, the daughter of director Howard Deutsch and actress Leah Thompson, and she's got real, genuine talent. It's not a great film, but I enjoyed watching it, and it's something that would be fun to stream on video at home. What do you got in TV stuff, my friend?
Let's see. We binge-watched Jessica Jones, the second series. And it's okay. It's not incredible, but it's good, and I enjoyed it. So I would recommend that if people want to binge something, it's a good one to binge. So
I think people should watch the first series beforehand. I don't think it's that sensible to jump right in. But
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Absolutely.
You could jump right in without watching the first series. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it does make references to the David Tennant character, and in fact, he does show up. But basically, this is an entirely different story, and basically, there's nothing you really have to know going into it except maybe a little bit about what happened with Tennant and and that's all explained. So,
I'll tell you what, though, you can access the first series, and if you haven't watched it, I recommend.
I'm saying you can access it, but if you don't, you can still watch this and not feel you've missed anything.
Okay, if you don't want to burn up, and I love Jessica Jones, and I thought both series are great, and I do believe that the first one was.
Did you watch this whole one?
I did,
yeah.
And I was pretty satisfied by it. But yeah, I don't think it's up to the first 13. But I do want to recommend quickly on Netflix from the UK, Collateral, which is not just another police procedural. The guy who wrote it, David Hare, the creator and wrote it as the award-winning playwright and screenwriter who did Plenty and The Hours and The Reader. And the cast is led by Carey Mulligan from Mudbound and An Education. It also features John Sim from The Catch and Life on Mars, and Billy Piper from Penny Dreadful, Secret Diary of a Call Girl, and they all have Doctor Who in common. But this is a wonderful 4-hour series about a London detective investigating the murder of a Syrian refugee who may have been a victim of hate crime. And it's really topical and well written and well acted. And I think it's a fine investment of your time.
I will invest my time in it. And if it isn't as good as you say, I want my time back.
I'll do what I can.
Yeah,
you
right.
Can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster and on Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page on Facebook. And hopefully we will have even better films next week.
Well, I hope so. I'd like to have something to go see. I need a social night out. Anyway, thank you so much, Michael Snyder, and he'll be with us again next week. I'm Alex Bennett. This is GABNet, and there's more of that self-same GABNet coming up right now.